Hey, First Things First listeners, before we start the show, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Now let's start the show. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. What's that word for when it's late at night and you're flipping around the TV and forget that there's a football game on Tuesday night? What, Nick? You did the same thing?
Tuesday night.
Oh, I was gonna say you're right. Last night was Tuesday, which means today's Wednesday, which means we are 29 minutes and 12 seconds away from the latest tiers of America. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready.
Big changes on the horizon. We will do that. But let us start with the aforementioned Tuesday night football. Ravens, Cowboys. Both these teams trying to get back on track. Spoiler alert, only one would do it. Ravens got the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson back off the COVID list and back off the quarterbacks who haven't played that well list. 3 touchdowns, 94 rushing yards. Ravens had 294 rushing yards in total, thanks to the Cowboys' league worst run defense. Here's Lamar after the big win.
It felt like I ain't played a whole season. I was like, I feel good to be back with my guys, even in practice, walking into the locker room and stuff like that. It's like, man, I couldn't wait to see y'all face. It was like 2 weeks I ain't see those guys. So it was like, man, I can't wait to get out there and perform for those guys because I know how much, it means to us to win games, for sure.
2 years ago, I was out sick one day. I felt the exact same way when I walked back into the office. Remember that, Nick? No, it didn't happen. Brandon, let me start with you here. So you watched this game last night, the way they dominated the Cowboys. Did they look like a playoff team?
With a head cold
I did not miss a month. It was a flu.
A month, Jenna?
Okay?
Go ahead.
2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. It was one day, maybe 3.
Okay.
Regardless.
Okay.
How did this Ravens team look to you last night with Lamar back? Did they look like a playoff team?
Absolutely. And look at that press conference by Lamar Jackson. When's the last time we saw that type of energy coming from the Baltimore Ravens? I said it last week. Yep. There's a lot of, I said it this week, actually. There's a lot of turmoil internally. So sometimes, taking away something that you love brings back that excitement. He played with juice last night. He played with a lot of excitement. He looked like the reigning MVP. You said it in your opening statement, Jenna. This dude looked like the reigning MVP. He was lights out. They ran the ball phenomenal. Yes, they're a playoff team. Defensively, they answered the question, right? They've been giving up a lot on the defensive side. You get Calais Campbell back. You get Brandon Williams back. Now, Zeke could have went for over 100 yards and dominated, but they got away from the run game. But I say all that to say, on the defensive side, their issues are fixable. You have your 2 defensive linemen back. And on the offensive side, Lamar Jackson playing with juice. But Jenna, Nick, the real question is, are they a contender? Right? We're talking about a team that came in with high hopes and expectations. Yesterday, we talked about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, and I said, you know what? It's about Greg Roman and the Baltimore Ravens. They still didn't get it done throwing the ball. Now, can they get back to the playoffs? Absolutely. That's where they left off last year. But if they want to take another step, what I've been saying all year is Greg Roman has to air it out. They have to throw the ball. Now, I will give him a pass because you have Lamar Jackson, who missed the game, and he also missed several practices due to COVID-19. Sure. So it was a great way to ease him back in. Next week is a huge test for them. Now, to answer the question, if they're contenders, they got to throw the ball more, Nick.
Well, so, yeah, do they look like a playoff team? Yes. In fact, they look like a very specific playoff team. The 2018 Baltimore Ravens playoff team. A team that once they inserted rookie Lamar Jackson had 5 games where they threw for less than 175 yards and ran for more than 200 yards. That's what that team last night looked like. And that team, the 2018 Ravens, wasn't considered a championship or bust, make the Super Bowl or it's a disappointment. It was like, hey, the season was dead with Flacco. We inserted this juice into the offense, and we're hard to defend. And so, Wilds, I do think they're going to make the playoffs. Even if they lose to if they beat Cleveland, they're basically a lock for the playoffs. But even if they lose to Cleveland, they still have a path where they can get to the 10 wins they would need to be a playoff team. Yeah. But they have to become more threatening through the air. And I agree with Brandon. Lamar's first game back in a game where the Dallas Cowboys looked like they'd never even heard of, much less practiced run fits. Why would you throw the football much? Just run it down their throat, because Dallas was awful defending the run. In fact, twice this year, there's been an NFL team allow 290 yards rushing. Both times it was the 2020 Dallas Cowboys. But they've got to get better at it. If they're going to be a real threat, Wilds, they've got to get better through the air. It is Greg Roman, it's also Lamar, and it's also the receivers doing a better job as far as getting open and doing their jobs.
Yeah, Nick, right. I couldn't tell how good this Ravens team is just because the one thing we did know is that the Cowboys' run defense is so bad. It's their third most rushing yards they've ever allowed. The first, oddly, was week 4 against the Browns. So here are some odd plays. And it's not like maybe it's a scheme thing. Maybe it's just guys missing plays. If you look at Van Der Esch here, he gets totally turned around on the play. Lamar goes right in. Then we have another play with Rashard Robinson, who's brand new on the squad, cornerback. He's the guy Hollywood Brown was lighting up. Watch this play. Whoops, pulls the Nate Robinson, laying on his face. So, Brandon, it's hard for me when I see plays that are so bad. When I see plays that are so bad, to give the Ravens this much credit. When you see plays like this that are easy plays that the Cowboys didn't make, it's hard for me to give the Ravens a bunch of flowers.
Hold on, what happened to Nate Robinson? So you're just going to throw that in there real quick, huh?
Oh, the Jake Hall fight.
Anytime somebody's laying on the ground.
Yeah, you're just going to throw that in there. You can't just throw Nate Robinson in there and think we're going to continue to talk about football. Come on, man. But look, you put me in a bad spot here because I would love to talk about Nate Robinson. But yeah, there is some validity behind what you're saying. They played against a Dallas Cowboys team who has been up and down all year, been struggling. But at the end of the day, we wanted to see if this team could get back on track. And last night they flashed. They showed you how awesome they can be. But they showed us how they got it done last year. This year, to get the job done and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, even the Cleveland Browns, you're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more.
Well, I'm going to give you one silver lining if you're a Ravens fan. I do think that they're going to make the playoffs, and I think it's likely going to be as the 7th seed. And if that happens, due to Pittsburgh's loss last week, their most likely first-round matchup is another game against the Steelers. And I think they feel good about their chances in that game. They barely lost the first game, even though Lamar turned it over 4 times. They were in the second game, even though it was the COVID Ravens with RG3 at quarterback. It would be a third look at them. And if you were watching the game last night, Troy Aikman said something that, with respect to Troy, when he said it, I was like, well, that has to be a fact error. But then I looked it up. I'm like, nope, Troy's right. John Harbaugh has 7 career road playoff wins. He's won 10 playoff games in his career. 7 have been on the road. So he knows how to get a team ready to go into another team's stadium to win a football game. So unlike with the Seahawks, where I think if they have to be on the road the whole playoffs, they could be in real trouble, Baltimore is used to that, and they've actually shown success with that. So even as the 7th seed, they could be dangerous, Jenna, if they get their offense more balanced.
And can I just say my takeaway last night, Lamar Jackson needed that game. Despite who the opponent was, he needed a confidence booster, a game to show who he was, maybe to bring back a little bit of that mojo he had last year. So I think all in all, for Lamar Jackson, it was definitely a win as well. All right, and what does this mean for the Cowboys? We'll discuss that angle coming up in a little bit. But moving on, after weeks of guessing, the Philadelphia Eagles finally made a decision at quarterback. So now what? Did they get better? We'll discuss next. First things first.
What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
On to the Eagles now. Guys, we have waited and wondered. We wondered and waited for Doug Pederson to make a quarterback decision. Yesterday, Dougie finally pulling the trigger, going with rookie Jalen Hurts. He had to. What's the expression? If you change nothing, nothing changes. So it'll be Jalen Hurts starting Sunday against the Saints and a healthy Carson Wentz watching from the sidelines. Here's Doug Pederson on what went into his decision.
I have come to a decision, and I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts this week against New Orleans. I looked at the whole thing and decided that for this week and to look for that spark again, to try to get the team over the hump, to try to get everybody playing better, right? And obviously the quarterback position is included there. So that's really the decision that I came to, moving forward this week.
All right, Brandon, I think a lot of people expected this. It was sort of something they had to do, but what did you make of Doug Pederson's decision to, in fact, go with Jalen Hurts?
It was the right decision, and you can maybe say that it was a week too late. Jalen Hurts came in last week, and he played really well. He gave the team a spark, the spark that Coach talked about. You saw him poise in the pocket, take off when he had to. He was able to make a few big plays in the passing game. He looked good. This is going to be interesting to see how things develop throughout the remaining of this season. But Jalen Hurts is a guy who threw for 52 touchdowns last year at Oklahoma. This dude can play some ball now. I know the wide receivers are probably excited. It's a breath of fresh air. The tight ends, probably even the offensive line. They're struggling, so they got a quarterback that can really take off on another level. So I think this is good, Wilds, when you think about how this is going to change the entire team. When you think about the locker room last week, they had a conversation. They had a meeting where Carson Wentz addressed the whole team, and the defensive guys were like, that was good. That was a step in the right direction for him to stand up and say, you know what, I've been struggling. So I like this for the team, and I also like this for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I don't buy sparks. I just don't pray to the spark god. So what happens when Jalen doesn't provide a spark? What happens when you run into the New Orleans Saints defense that held Matt Ryan to 19 completions, where Tom Brady had 3 interceptions and 3 points? What happens then? Saints defense has kept rookie quarterbacks. Their record is 6-7. Now, Justin Herbert, however, did have 4 touchdowns, still lost the game. So there can be a little bit of a rookie spark. But if they struggle, I think it's going to be, I don't think we've seen the last of Carson Wentz. We saw Cam get pulled in that 49ers game. It's like, it's Stidham time. There we go, Cam. Belichick's like, nah, he's back. We saw Tua, your guy, they're both your guys now, Brandon. Tua was playing great, was getting a lot of sacks. So then, Fitzmagic is back. Like, what's going on here? So if you're just going with a spark, I don't think we've seen the last of Carson Wentz, and especially against the Saints defense. If Jalen is struggling, I think Doug Pederson, who wants to prove that he can still make it work and manage, I think we're gonna see a little bit of Carson Wentz. If not on Sunday, then sometime later this year.
Well, look, this is something that you can't straddle the fence on, Wild. You made the decision, and this is the decision that you got to live with for the remaining of this season.
Yeah.
You can't go back to Carson Wentz. You can't play that. It's too emotional for everybody in this building right now. Billion-dollar industry, multi-million-dollar athletes walking around the locker room. There's pressure on these guys to perform at a high level every single day. Carson Wentz is done. He is broken. Let this kid go in there and develop. And you're probably right. I'm glad that you talked about the New Orleans Saints defense. They are the best defense since week 9. Remember, they were struggling this year. One of the things that we talked about in preseason to highlight, the teams that we like was the New Orleans Saints and how this defense, the last couple years under Dennis Allen, they start slow, and then all of a sudden, the second half of the season, they turn it on to become one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen. That's what it seems like for the last 3 years under Dennis Allen. So look, Nick, I think this is really good, but you can't straddle the fence. He can't go back to Carson Wentz.
Well, and the difference between, with respect to the point Wild's making, the difference between what happened with Cam and Tua, what happened with Cam and Tua is what happened to Carson Wentz during the game last week. You'd made a quarterback switch during a game. That, to me, is very different than leading into a game saying, we are starting a new quarterback. That is a page you turn, and you try not to have to turn back. And if you're going to want the best for Jalen, who, let's keep in mind, what's Jalen's history? He has an unbelievable start of his college career, and then Tua Tagovailoa is sitting on the bench and steals his job from him. Now, I don't blame anyone in that situation, and then Jalen has to transfer, and he's great at Oklahoma. Point being, if you want Jalen to have a chance to truly be your franchise quarterback moving forward, it does not help him to have Carson Wentz on this team next year. And I want to just correct some misinformation out there, because I laid out the scenario where Carson could be traded. And anyone and everyone in football Twitter, including Jenna's old friend and colleague Mike Missinelli in Philly, tweets me, hey, Nick, check the salary cap, check your facts. Just spoiler alert, America, I've checked my facts, always. So here's actually how it works. In 2021, here are your options. If he is on the roster, he costs you $35 million against the cap. If you cut him, he costs you $60 million against the cap. If you trade him, it's $34 million against the cap. That seems like a massive figure, but it's a one-time hit. It cleans up your books moving forward, and it's less than the cap hit if he's on your team. In 2022, if he's on your roster, it's $31 million. If you cut him before the 2022 season, it's still $40 million of dead money. And if you trade him before the 2022 season, it's $25 million of dead money. Meaning, if you need to rip the Band-Aid off, you need to rip the Band-Aid off via trade this offseason. The team that trades for him would be assuming that contract 4 years, $98 million, right in line with, the Nick Foles contract, shorter term was Nick Foles, that the Bears traded for. And Wilds, I want to be clear here. I do not think you're getting any type of return for Carson Wentz. I actually think it's possible you might have to attach a pick yourself in order to get someone to take that contract off your hands. But if you want to move forward, then you've got to move forward. And maybe I'm wrong about compensation. Hell, Nick Foles got traded for a fourth. Maybe someone will give you a fourth, Brandon. But you can't have Carson Wentz sitting on the bench looking over Jalen Hurts' shoulder with a $35 million cap hit. If you're going to go with Jalen, then you must trade Wentz, and I think he might be tradable this offseason.
Yeah, but what did Doug say when he made this switch, Nick? He said, you know what? I do believe that Carson Wentz can get back to playing at a championship level. So let's look at the other scenario. This could be a win-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. If this kid goes out there, Hurts go out there and plays well, he could potentially be someone that has trade value, right? Because you're right.
That's interesting.
You cannot go into next season with two quarterbacks, whether it's Carson Wentz under the center or Jalen. Because what's going to happen, especially in the city of brotherly love, if one guy throws one pick, they're calling for his head, right? So you don't even want to set your organization up for that type of failure.
Brandon, it's a great point, but let me tell you, if Jalen Hurts plays well and the Eagles' response to that is trading him to give the job back to Carson Wentz, there might be a revolt down Broad Street. They might burn the link down.
Right.
I understand the point, but I think Eagles fans would not
numbers,
take that too kindly.
Yeah, but that's a big hit.
The numbers make it hard.
Big hit, though.
The numbers make it hard. Yep. The numbers make it hard, but it is doable.
All right, well, this was just all part of a crazy Week 13 in the NFL, which means one thing.
Jenna.
Nick's revealing his latest edition of NFL Tears. It's next. First things first.
We didn't argue about a quarterback, Jenna.
It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. Regular crowd shuffles in. Guys, we're the regular crowd today. The committee is met. The decisions have been made. It is time for the unveiling of Nick's new NFL Tears. Nick, take it away.
All right, listen. Admission here. The committee a little bleary-eyed, and the committee causing some issues in my home life. Tuesday night football, not ideal for the committee. They're here in my house till 11:30 at night last night, waiting for that football game to wind down. My wife says people got to go, kids got school in the morning, but we burnt the midnight oil to deliver you the Tears entering Week 14. Reveal them, please. At the bottom, the race to the bottom, a new entry. Hey there, Chargers. That's what happened when you get 45-0 to the Patriots. If tier. That tier is, their fans are like, man, if Cam just hadn't, if we had just won that game, if we go undefeated the rest of the way, you still think there's hope, but there's not. Okay. Fast rising or free falling. That's the next tier. So all those teams have around the same record, but for very different reasons. For the Cardinals and the Raiders, it's because they're falling apart. For the Pats and the Giants and Washington, it's because they're surging. They're still alive, and it's headed in different directions, but they've met at the same place. Now let's zoom in on the most important teams. All about the matchup tier, meaning any of these teams, if they make the playoffs, can absolutely win a playoff game if they get the right matchup. The Bucs need to play a team with no pass rush. The Titans need to play a team that doesn't have an elite offense. The Ravens need to play a team that struggles against the run. That's what that tier is all about. They can win a playoff game if they get the right matchup. Don't get hot tier. Now we're talking about the best 8 teams in football. These are teams that are not going to have a first-round bye, but if they look good in the first round of the playoffs, they're going to cause massive fear for the 4 teams above them. Don't let the Rams get hot. Don't let Seattle on that offense get hot. Don't let Josh Allen have the first good playoff game of his life. Don't let those teams get hot. Might become a little scary. Conference championship threat. If either the Chiefs or the Steelers don't make the Super Bowl, I believe it will be because one of these 2 teams dethroned them en route to the Super Bowl. And the Steelers obviously have been moved down from number 1 contenders. We have new number 1 contenders. The Saints have won 9 in a row, the last 3 of which they have won without a quarterback. That's wildly impressive. And of course, the champs stay the champs. So those are the latest tiers. The committee stayed up throughout the night to bring them to you. And because of that, I imagine, Brandon, you're going to say this is the best version yet. We can move on. It's all perfect.
Close. Very close, Nick. But I'll go back to this. I said it 2 weeks in a row. The constructs, the ideals of the traditional rankings were good. So I feel like the rankings in the past, teams saying, you know what? You win games, you're going to be high on my list. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I truly believe they should still be up there as the number 1 contender.
Oh.
They lost 1 game.
Wow.
All right, so I just want to get that out there. I want to make that clear.
Yep.
Number 2, Brandon Marshall. Wiles, can I use your character on this one?
No,
you
can't use his
probably won't work for me.
No.
All right, cool. But I want to petition the committee, Nick, to move a team up. This is a team that is playing really good ball right now, Nick. This is a team that I haven't talked highly on.
Oh,
the Cleveland Browns.
Oh,
Jenna, they're 9-3. They're 9-3. Jenna, they are probably the hottest team in football right now. They're on a 4-game winning streak, at the best time in the NFL season. In December, we talk about it all the time. So for that reason, I petition the committee to move him up. Number 2. Oh my goodness, what do we have here? Kevin Stefanski, coach of the year. This guy has changed the culture. This guy is totally underrated, and he's devised a game plan to utilize Baker Mayfield the right way. So number 2, Kevin Stefanski is coaching his butt off. Just like I would talk about a player, he is balling. Number 3, Myles Garrett is back. He's been gone due to COVID-19. Nice. This defense is trending in the right direction. And guess what? This dude can single-handedly win you a game in a playoff. So I petition the committee to move up. And the last thing, Nick, number 4, the most important thing. Nick Wright's persuasion, your skills. Bro, you are finally convincing me that the Cleveland Browns are good. Jenna, take Baker Mayfield out of it. We're not talking about Baker. Me and you see eye to eye on Baker Mayfield, Jenna. I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. Nick, from the beginning, you've been saying that this team is legit and the real deal. So for these 4 reasons, I petition the committee to move the Cleveland Browns up. Can we get this done?
Don't rush into any decisions, Nick.
If the Cleveland Browns this weekend avenge one of their few losses of the year, that embarrassing trouncing in week 1 at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens, they will be moved up. We need to see them do that. Contender? Week 1, the Ravens crushed them. But if they get to 10-3 and they beat the Ravens, and you look at it and you're like, okay, so what are their other losses? They got annihilated by a Steelers defense that was at its absolute apex, and they lost a weird game against the Raiders in a windstorm. Then I think they would have to be moved up. So the committee doesn't want to overreact to, 2 tiers. Right, well, let's pump the brakes. Let's just see. Let's see what else happens. Let's just see what else happens. I don't know if they can be the number 1 contender, but I'll tell you this much. If the Browns win and the Steelers lose to Buffalo, then we're going to have real question about who's the second best team in the AFC. The Bills would have a case. The Steelers would say we still only have 2 losses. Yep. And the Browns, of course. So the committee respects and understands the petition, and it will be under advisement moving into this coming weekend's games. Now to the gentleman from the Northeast, Kevin Wildes.
Well, good day. Good day. I brought a holiday orb that the children brought back from the countryside in Elizabeth. Happy holidays to everyone. Look. Holiday orb, Nicholas. St. Nicholas, a happy holidays to everyone around the globe. I, Kevin Wildes, am here to petition yet again, but for the first time, that the Gigantics from New Amsterdam be moved up 1 spot for the following reasons contained. Hence,
did your voice change?
Brandon? Mr. Marshall. Reason number 1. Momentum. Look, they started 1-7. They won their last 4 games. They held Russell Wilson, Seattle, 12 points. And even their losses were close, Nick. 4 losses, total of 14 points. Reason number 2, 3rd down defense. NFL's best since week 7, 28% of the time. Teams are converting on 3rd down. Reason number 3.
That's really good.
Sacks and turnovers. Kind of like a combo, really like a 3 and 4. Best turnover differential since week 19. And only the Steelers and the Giants have recorded 2 sacks every game this year. We know they're hot. Got to believe in Joe Judge, playing with the fire. Colt McCoy's out. Danny Dimes is back. And I know you've got them on the tier there. It's like, some teams are surging. Some teams won't make the playoffs. All those teams might not make the playoffs, but either the Giants or Washington have to. So I feel like the Giants deserve to be moved up for the reasons contained henceforth.
Okay, so here's the issue with that. And it's unlike your repeated cases for the Colts, this is a respectable case and one that deserves a respectable answer. It's very difficult to make the argument to move the Giants up a tier and not make the exact same argument for Washington. You can say, well, the Giants had a great win this week against Seattle. Washington had an even better win this week against Pittsburgh. Now, I understand the Giants and Washington have played twice, and the Giants won them both. But if you remember that first matchup, Washington scores a touchdown with 10 seconds left, ostensibly to tie the game, and Ron Rivera goes for 2. They don't get it. And if they get that 2-point conversion, the Giants are sitting at 4 wins and Washington sitting at 6-6, and we're really talking about them. Also, the Giants win yesterday or Sunday was their first win of the season, not against a team that's in that race to the bottom. Now, they've got a tough schedule coming up. If they can just split their next 2 games, then I think they will have an argument. I think the Giants' defense, Wilds, has really looked good. What's been odd to me, if you've been watching the Giants closely, which I have because for some reason or another, it seems like I'm betting on them or their opponent every week. The Giants' weakness right now appears to be special teams, which Joe Judge is special teams coordinator. It seems like that's something they should be able to fix. And so the Giants but it's a legitimate argument. We need to see a little bit more from the Giants. We need to see what Washington looks like this week to see if someone differentiates themselves, Jenna.
All right, Wilds, I'm going to say what everyone's thinking. Love the voice, more voice. But I know it gave you a sore throat, so you had to go back to your regular voice. I know that's what happened. Hey, we got some significant matchups that could impact the balance of tier power for next week. You got Vikings, Bucks, Steelers, Bills. That'll be a great one. Ravens, Browns also. What do you need to see, Nick, in these games to create some movement in the tiers?
All of a sudden, Vikings-Bucks is massive. The loser could, depending on what Arizona does, find themselves on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. Monday Night Football, Ravens-Browns, I feel like that's going to be the whole show on Tuesday. But Brandon, I want to go to you quickly here. Steelers-Bills, I feel like this is a bit of a Sophie's choice for you. It's your Super Bowl pick from before the season, your hometown team, Pittsburgh. And then Buffalo, who you've been promoting far stronger than I have. I feel like for both of these teams, and I don't know if you've looked at the point spread, Buffalo, 2.5-point favorites over the Steelers. So Vegas believing in the Bills. And so, to me, that is the game that's going to cause the most havoc with next week's tiers, Brandon, Steelers-Bills.
Yeah, Nick, and I hate to say it, but the Bills will cover. The Bills will win this game. I just think the Steelers right now, they have an identity crisis on offense, defensively, war of attrition. They're banged up there. I do think they'll get back on track. But right now, this is a Buffalo Bills team that you have in the tier don't get hot. But I already believe I think they're hot already, Nick.
Okay. All right, those are your tiers. We will discuss them more coming up, but we got to talk about Doug Pederson's big news yesterday, finally naming a starting quarterback moving forward. Carries some big weight. We'll talk about what that is next. First things first.
Bucks and Bills just a quarterback away.
Back here, first things first, with a Super Bowl champ, 4-time All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, and 1-time awesome fitness app creator, DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus joining us now. Good morning, buddy. We're going to talk some Cowboys in a minute. Got a lot of questions for you, but first we want to start with this app you just created, Driven to Win. It's really good. I'm doing lower body exercises as we speak, but thankfully with this format, nobody knows it. Thanks for being with us. Tell us a little bit about the app.
Thank you guys for inviting me on. It's an app I've been working on since I've been retired, and I got an opportunity to work with some great people, and it uses athlete training science, and it really is enhanced by 3D models, augmented reality, but also artificial intelligence. So it grows with you, and so that's what makes it so awesome. And I've been working on this, and I'm just so proud to launch something that I'm proud of. Now making my new locker room, the weight room, and really motivating people through fitness.
Love it. And for people that don't know, when they join, they actually get to work out with you virtually, which is really cool. All right, it's a shame you're not in better shape because you're just sitting there. Let's start talking some Cowboys, DeMarcus. They couldn't stop Lamar and the Ravens last night, keeping with the theme of just not a whole lot going on right now for the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy's first season. So, DeMarcus, in your opinion, what's gone so wrong for the 3-9 Dallas Cowboys this year?
I mean, with the offseason, they're really missing that. And so they're missing the mantra and the leadership in the locker room. And I see a lot of the guys also not knowing what to do on defense. Guys in different places, they ran a 4-3 defense, and now they're running like a 3-4 hybrid defense. And guys are just in different places and not being responsible like they should. And you can see like big plays like this with Lamar Jackson. Those plays happen, and they'll just crush the team.
DeMarcus, Brandon here. First of all, I got to address something. These arms. Let me see, bro. Let me see the bicep. Let me see the bicep. Oh, man. All right, look, come on, man. I mean, how old are you now? How long you been retired and you still look amazing? I guess that takes me to my first question for you. Zeke, it doesn't seem like he's in shape, man. I hate to just throw you on the spot like this, put you on the spot like this, but the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of people had this team being a Super Bowl contender, and they just imploded on the onset of this season. To me, I look at the top, right? You look at the coaches, you look at the owners, then you look at the top players.
Right.
Zeke, it seems like he can use a little bit of your app and he can work out with you. Is it me or am I missing it?
You know, the thing is, I don't see that pop. You know how when you look at a lot of the players, that third and fourth quarter, when you used to see Zeke start grinding on the defensive line, start really just chewing up those yards, I don't see that this year coming from Zeke. So I don't know if it's being out of shape, not knowing where he needs to be, if it's a comfort level, but I don't see that same Zeke. You know, when Zeke get that football, he's averaging, 100, 150 yards a game. They just give him the ball. Feed Zeke, is what they say, or what they have been saying, but I don't see that same person.
Right. Yeah, Brandon's worried they're feeding Zeke a little too much off the field and it's hurting him. All right, you said something interesting there about players on defense not knowing where to be, what to do. So I'm going to ask you to put yourself in a weird spot. You're going to be a Hall of Famer. You're 10th all time in sacks. I feel like you were going to succeed even if the coach didn't know what he was doing. You're going to figure it out. So put yourself in a lesser player's position, if you would. Just a good NFL player, not an all-timer. How much of what you're seeing with the Cowboys is coaching when you're watching it, and how much of it is guys being coached fine and just not doing their jobs?
I think it's about 40% coaching, and then there's 60% of leadership. Where is that guy that at the end of the day, when stuff hits the fan, they're looking at the other players and they're saying, where is the leadership? What do we need to do this season? I don't see that guy. If it's Leighton, if it's DeMarcus Lawrence, if it's Alden Smith, Brandon Marshall, just to chime in a little bit, when we're out there playing, when you have that leader out there, he starts making plays, and all of a sudden, everybody starts to get motivated. Where is that person?
Yep, that's right. I mean, we talked about that. We talked about that early in the year as far as where's the leadership. That's the first thing you got to think about. It starts with culture. It starts before you even get on the field. So let me push things forward real quick. This is my last question for you. You got Jerry Jones, right? You have a great relationship with Jerry Jones. You're an all-time great. You're an all-time Dallas Cowboy. Where does Jerry Jones take this team from here? You have Dak Prescott. You know, do they extend him? Do they not extend him? Where is that leader? Is he going to go get a leader? So I want you to just take us in the thought process of Jerry Jones and how he moves forward.
Okay, put it like this. We were 6-4 during the season, and we had a meeting when Jerry Jones came in. And he said, I want you guys to empty the bucket for the Dallas Cowboys. And if you don't do that, there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to happen this season. I'm not talking about the offseason. He was talking about during the season, cutting guys, bringing guys in. And I know that it's going to be swiped out across the board at the end of the season. With Jerry Jones, there's going to be a lot of changes on defense. There's going to be a lot of changes on offense because he wants to win. He's a businessman. That's how he's always been. And with that, I don't know what decision they're going to make with that, but they're going to have that leader at the quarterback position that comes in and takes over the team. And hopefully that's Dak when he comes back. But I'm waiting to see.
What would you do with Dak? What would you do with Dak?
I would actually bring Dak in, and being the owner, seeing where he fits in the offense. Let's say this crazy catastrophic injury, I want to actually test him out, see if he's that same guy. If he's not that same guy, I would still sign him, to be honest with you. I wouldn't sign him to that amount of money that he should have gotten a long time ago, because guess what? I got to worry about the team. But I am going to make sure I take care of my guy, because he's been there with me year after year after year. But I also got to bring somebody in that's going to be able to impact the team right now.
Yeah. I do agree this Cowboys team definitely needs some semblance of a reset once Dak gets back. Let's talk a little Tom Brady, DeMarcus. You won Super Bowl 50 with the Broncos with a 39-year-old Peyton Manning under center. Bucs hoping for similar success with their 43-year-old GOAT quarterback. Could you see the Bucs and Tom Brady winning it all this year?
Can't wait to hear this.
You know what? I can see the Bucs actually taking it this year.
Sorry to cut you off, but be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Where me and Nick Wright, we don't see eye to eye. Me and Nick Wright, we don't see eye to eye when it comes to quarterback. So I can't wait to hear what you say about Tom Brady and this aging quarterback. So be careful.
So let me tell you this: when the Denver Bronco defense came out, we knew exactly what this team was about. It wasn't about Peyton Manning. He was, at the time, he was a game manager. He wasn't playing exactly how he was playing at the beginning of the season, because he was hurt, just like I was during the Super Bowl. But when you have Shaq Barrett, when you have Pierre-Paul, when you have guys coming off that corner and creating plays for now Tom Brady, now he doesn't have to go all the way down the field and manage the game. I think that this right here is like a great story. With Tom Brady going down there, the defense is really holding him up. That's the way I feel, and he's managing the game like he should. So I feel like this is a Super Bowl contender for sure.
So I want to say something nice about Brady here, and it relates to Peyton Manning 5 years ago, that Super Bowl win. Because Brady's having a down year by his standards, but Peyton's numbers that year were ludicrous. He had 9 touchdowns, he had 17 picks. I think he had a 69 passer rating. But you could see in the playoff run, he still knew what plays to get into. His brain hadn't atrophied. He knew what he was trying to do. And I think he was I'm being totally serious. I'm not being a smart aleck here. I think he was an asset to you guys. You guys would not have won if you stuck with Brock Osweiler. As great as the defense was, I really believe that. And so I'm curious for you, with Brady, even if he can't make all the throws, even if he's not totally comfortable in the system, once they get to the postseason, what type of edge does he give his team against, say, they're playing a Kyler Murray-led team or a Jared Goff-led team, a team that doesn't have as much experience at that quarterback position, even if Brady isn't physically the same guy he was?
I mean, just like you said, experience. Brady's won multiple Super Bowls. He's been in the playoff. And so now you have like the perfect game manager that can go in there and not, have turnovers. They can manage the game. And you have a defense that can go in and create plays for Brady. So now he can be the perfect game manager. So to me, from my perspective, the Brady that's now and the Peyton that we had, there were two different players, right? Peyton went in, he was hurt. Brady's not hurt right now. Both of them were great game managers, but the defense is the key to winning this Super Bowl. So I think that it is what it is right now.
All right, we're going to take a turn, guys. Play a little drawing a blank now. DeMarcus, you led the NFL in sacks twice in a season during your career, including 2008. You had 20 sacks that season. TJ Watt currently at the top of this year's leaderboard. But DeMarcus, the best pass rusher in the NFL is blank.
I see TJ Watt. I see Myles Garrett. I still got to go with Aaron Donald. When you have somebody in the middle that can be so impactful, like he's been for year after year, I got to give it to my guy Aaron Donald. I mean, he's one of those forces to be reckoned with. When you stick, I would say a defensive end / outside linebacker type body like Aaron Donald, him being so effective like that, it's like the sky's the limit for that guy. So Aaron Donald for me.
But Myles Garrett is a freak.
Aaron Donald, best pass rusher in the league.
Yeah, but
He is.
Myles Garrett is a freak though. Like, how do you not go with Myles Garrett? You went with a D. You went with a D lineman and not a D end. What?
Yes. Because when you're on the outside, you have a tackle you have to worry about. You have maybe a running back or a tight end. But when you're in the inside, there's a center. And there's a guard that's mashing you no matter what. If you can beat those two hogs in the middle like that week in and week out, you got to be the guy. You got to be that guy.
Yeah.
All right.
I give you that one.
The app is called Driven to Win. Go check it out. Get yourself a workout in. DeMarcus, thank you so much for getting up and hanging with us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, DeMarcus. That's great.
Moving on now. A much-needed win for the Ravens last night. Back to the game when First Things First continues. Back after this.
Tears in 13 minutes.
Cam Newton and the Patriots looking to keep rolling against Aaron Donald and the NFC West leading Rams. It will be an uphill battle, Wilds, but it is tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern on Fox NFL Network and streaming on Prime Video. We've had football almost every night this week. Back here talking the Philadelphia Eagles. Doug Pederson finally pulled the trigger on his starting quarterback, naming rookie Jalen Hurts the starter. What's the expression? If you change nothing, nothing changes. Applicable to starting a diet plan and making a quarterback change. At 3-8-1, this is an Eagles team that was desperate for a change. So it'll be Jalen Hurts Sunday against the Saints, and it'll be Carson Wentz watching from the sidelines. Here's Doug Pederson on what went into his quarterback change.
I have come to a decision, and I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts this week against New Orleans. I looked at the whole thing and decided that for this week and to look for that spark again, to try to get the team over the hump, to try to get everybody playing better, right? And obviously the quarterback position is included there. So that's really the decision that I came to, moving forward this week.
All right, Brandon, what'd you make of Doug Pederson's decision?
It was a good decision, Jenna, but it probably is a couple weeks too late because now they find themselves probably not going to win this division, and they were right there. They had it right there in their hands, and if they made this change and the spark that he's talking about, it could have happened then because this kid, Jalen Hurts, he's a baller. You got to go back to his college career and look at what he did at Alabama before Tua took over for him. This dude was one of the best that was doing it then. And then he goes to Oklahoma, and what did he do last year? 52 touchdowns. He got it done through the air. He got it done on the ground. Look, I'm not saying it's over for Carson Wentz, but this kid needs to be in there right now, galvanizing this locker room, galvanizing this organization, and pushing things forward. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how things play out the next couple weeks, but this kid can ball. Now, Wilds, I think we see differently on this because he does give a spark. In the New Orleans Saints, this matchup is going to be a tough one. Since week 9, all right, this defense has been the best in the NFL. Now, we talked about this earlier on in the year. This is a defense that starts slow, and then all of a sudden, Dennis Allen, halfway through the year, starts ramping it up, and guys start playing lights out. And it's the same trend that they followed the last couple years. They're doing it again. So when we talk about Hurts coming in this week, look, it can be difficult for him because of what we're seeing right here, but you ride it out for the remaining of this season.
Okay, well, how much are you willing to ride out? Because I think this is the absolute worst matchup for him to go, Brandon. So suppose he's got 3 interceptions and has put 3 points on the board, because that's what Tom Brady did against the Saints. And I don't think if Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady, and if I'm Doug Pederson, I'm like, ugh, this is an ugly game. And if you're going to live by this spark, you're going to die by this spark. Like, you know what, Jalen, we're going to take you out. The Saints are a little bit too tough. We need a spark. And then there's good old Carson Wentz back in it. I think this is very different than like Tua getting the starting job. They always knew that they wanted Tua to be the guy, and Fitzmagic was the placeholder. But this is different because Carson Wentz lost this job. And I think, this is just a wild theory, Doug Pederson wants to win games to hold on to his job. There's no value for him to develop Jalen Hurts and lose out 0-4. If he can be like, you know what? Got the last little bit of spark. We won the game because I'm here moving the chess pieces around like a genius. I need to keep my job. I just don't think we've seen the last of Carson Wentz yet, Jenna.
All right, so at least for now, though, this means that it's the end of Carson Wentz, at least as a starter. Doug Pederson addressed where things stand with the former number 2 overall pick. Listen to what he had to say.
I still have a lot of belief and a lot of faith and trust in Carson. And as I've said, this is not about one guy. We have a lot of things to fix offensively, but I do believe that Carson will get himself back to that championship level.
Okay.
Of course, he's going to say that. If they are going to move on from him, Nick, they'd love him to be worth something somewhere else. But what do you think this now means for Carson Wentz's future in Philadelphia?
Here's where I'm at. And I understand the numbers and the figures, and I'll show them to you in a second. The Eagles are obviously hoping that Jalen Hurts plays great over this last month of the season. Even if it's a tough matchup against the Saints to start, you have the Cowboys in there, you have Arizona in there. So let's just assume that happens, that Jalen Hurts plays well enough that their plan is to move into 2021 with Jalen as the starter. Then the Eagles have one move and one move only, and that's trading Wentz. Because whether he's on your bench or on another team, it's a sunk cost if he's not playing. So let's look at what those costs would be. They can't cut him. They can't cut him this year or really even next year. It's just too big of a cap hit. If he's on your team and not playing, it's $35 million on your bench. If you are able to trade him to a team such as the Colts, where Frank Wright is, to a team such as the Broncos, who is run by John Elway, who loves nothing more than big, strong, not that good quarterbacks. If you're able to do that, then the cap hit is almost the exact same as if he's on your bench. But the difference is that 2022 year, when you're hoping to build with a young, cheap Jalen Hurts, it's not $30 million to Carson or $25 million to Carson, who's not playing or you've traded a year later. It's $0 to Carson if you do it now. So, Brandon, if Jalen plays well, I think they have to do everything they can to eat that money now by trading Carson Wentz so they can try to have the ability to improve the team for Jalen Hurts eventually, not with this contract weighing them down.
Here's where I agree with you, Nick. You can't go into next year with 2 quarterbacks. You can't do it. Not these 2 guys. Absolutely can't do it. The dynamic will be too it will break down this locker room. It wouldn't be good for this organization. Now, where I do agree with where I see this scenario changing is actually on the other end. We could potentially see this kid Jalen Hurts play well down the stretch and him be traded. So I don't know if you can get rid of Carson. You heard what Coach said. Coach said, I truly believe that this kid can get back to playing championship ball. So if he plays well, we can see Jalen Hurts being traded and not Carson Wentz. They have a lot of issues they have to fill. They have the linebacker position. They have, depth in the secondary, the wide receiver position. And then obviously the most glaring one is the offensive line. So I think we can see this thing play out differently down the stretch.
But Nick, what would the reaction be if Jalen Hurts goes 3-1 or 4-0, and you're in Philadelphia and you're like, you know what? We're going to move on from Jalen Hurts. We got all this money for Carson Wentz, everybody. In for a dime, in for a dollar. We're going to ride it. It would be catastrophic. So I think he's stuck there riding the pine. Just like, you're going to sit there, buddy. Sorry. Like, you're starting an expensive insurance.
Can't do it.
I think what Brandon is describing actually makes sense from a team building perspective. I think when it comes to a public relations perspective, it would be one of the greatest blunders in the history of PR. Even if long-term, Brandon, it's the right thing to do.